Hi, everyone, and welcome. I am your Woo Woo Queen Gina, and this is All Things Woo Woo Podcast. I want to warmly welcome you into my sacred space where I will share with you the deepest parts of my woo woo self in the world of woo woo. Now, you can be anywhere in the world, and you chose to be here with me on my very first podcast ever. And for that, I am forever grateful. What you get from spending your time with me today is everything the universe has to offer. On the other hand, I am just a messenger. Please, my woo woos, please, don't shoot the messenger. All Things Woo Woo podcast will explore the world of woo woo, sharing with you all the ways in which you can use woo woo to enhance your human experience, manifesting the life you want using your intrinsic gifts and capabilities. We are powerful sentient beings, my woo-woos, with abilities far beyond our wildest imaginations. And on this podcast, you will learn ways to tap into that power, harness abundant information, knowledge, and wisdom from the divine realm of infinite possibilities. Join me, your woo-woo queen, here every week for a new woo-woo episode. All Things Woo Woo streams on all platforms, and you can subscribe on Patreon to get the latest information, notifications, and direct messages delivered straight to your inbox. We are about to embark on a magical journey, one you will find yourself fully immersed in once you start to understand and begin to unlock the infinite potential that resides in the world of woo woo. Now, when I refer to the term woo woo, I am talking about superconscious and mysticism, and not the cocktail. There is a cocktail drink named woo woo. However, for those of you who did end up here possibly looking for the recipe, no worries, your girl got you covered. It's made with vodka, peach schnapps, and cranberry juice. So please go and make your drink, then come back, spend a little time with me, your woo woo queen Gina, and enjoy your cocktail in the world of woo woo. So, for today's episode, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. Woo woo is meant to be fun. Life is serious enough, and it is my belief that this physical experience we are having is meant to be an adventure. We've gotten so far away from the adventure and fun to where nothing seems funny. It all seems sad looking at the bigger picture. Even when looking through woo-woo shielded glasses, it still seems so upside down. I've been using an analogy for a while now. It's one I picked up early on in my journey of awakening when I stopped running from woo-woo and started paying attention to what it was trying to tell me. One of the first lessons I learned is that the universe is upside down. Things seem to work in reverse. However, as I mentioned and will continue to mention, the world of woo-woo is a delicate landscape, and you have to pay close attention to see this analogy at work. I know it's early, my woo-woos, but I have to give just one example of how the physical world seems to work in reverse. Have you ever noticed that you wanted something really bad? You wanted and you prayed and you manifested and you did everything in your physical power to get that something, but it never showed up. You get sick and tired of waiting. You finally, deep in your heart and mind, release that physical desire, and then the next day, voila, it pops up right in front of you, seemingly out of thin air. I cannot express how many times this has happened to me personally. And to drive the point home, one of the major components of manifestation is detaching and letting go of any perceived outcomes. You have to essentially clearly see and understand your desire, ask the universe to provide it to you while deeply and wholeheartedly displaying gratitude for what you already have in the present moment, and lastly, let it all go. Just act as if you never asked for or desired it in the first place. How do you trick your mind and heart into believing that you don't want something you just asked the universe to provide for you? How easy is that to do? Well, if it were as easy as it might sound, then we will all be manifesting gurus. The main component that trips us up the most is our inability to let go once we whisper it to the universe. I know this struggle all too well. I grapple with it every day. It's not until I realize that the things that I desire are not showing up in my physical world, that the part about letting it go clicks for me. By that time, I'm tired of waiting. I feel as if it's never going to happen, anyways, and I've replaced it with something just as, if not more, fulfilling that totally takes my mind away from it, anyways. Then, bam, it pops up like magic. Abracadabra, baby. It never fails. I work with people all the time who are trying to manifest something in their lives, and this scenario repeats itself time and time again. That is just one example of the world working in reverse. Then there is subtle energy that we must be aware of. Again, while it's a subtle dismissal, it's still a dismissal that weirdly brings things into our lives. I know we all heard the term, what we resist persists. This understanding is similar. We have subtle thoughts, and before you know it, they are showing up all around us. We view those occurrences as coincidences or say things like, wow, I was just thinking about that and then it happened. No, it didn't just happen. We are pulling experiences into our lives by our thoughts and how we are processing them. This is real, my woo-woos. Nothing happens in our lives by chance. We are creating every single experience we have. And because a lot of it happens in this very subtle, delicate woo-woo landscape, we are in oblivion about what we are doing that attracts our experiences. If a person has no idea about the upside down mechanism of the universe, then how would they ever know that it's a huge part of manifestation? Even in knowing, it's still difficult to let go of things we want and or desire. Because I know this upside down mechanism all too well, I have come up with a technique to quickly dismiss those random subtle thoughts that we have to ensure that they do not manifest. I will not go into detail about this mechanism in this episode, but you can find a link below to learn more. Subtle dismissal of thoughts will attract things into our lives almost immediately, and certainly faster than the focused manifestation process. Here, I'll give another example. My sister asked me for some money, and she asked me for exactly the amount I had in my pocket. I said to her, it's my last, but you can have it, and I gave it to her. I had bought a lottery ticket earlier that day, so when I walked away, I remembered the lottery ticket and I suddenly said to myself, I'm gonna hit the lottery anyway. It was such a nonchalant thought that I didn't even give it any more attention after I said it. I literally forgot I had the ticket until later that evening when I was winding down and thought about the money I had given to my sister earlier in the day. I said, oh, let me check my ticket. My woo-woos, it was a winner. I hit the lottery for exactly 100 times more than the amount I had given to her. That blew my mind, especially because I immediately connected to that point earlier in the day when I had the subtle thought. I thought to myself, oh, so this is how manifestation works. It happens in a nanosecond of putting a desire out into the universe. This occurrence was the second time I'd connected to the subtle thought of making something appear in my life, to know that you have to let go of perceived notions about the when, where, or how that desire will appear. In both of those instances, I was on the move and really didn't have time to sit and obsess about it. I had another lottery situation with my sister where I casually said something to her and it manifested in that exact moment. We were sitting at the table talking and she was doing scratch-offs. Now, mind you, she had been sitting there the whole time scratching lottery tickets, sucking her teeth when none of them proved to be a winner. She scratched her last one and then said out loud, well, that's that. I didn't win shit. I said, let me see that ticket. I bet it's a winner. I didn't say that for any of the other tickets, but that one. The ticket was a winner. I can't recall the total amount of the ticket, but she ended up giving me $200 for saving her from throwing a winner ticket in the trash, which she'd just thrown 3 or 4 others. Of course, we retrieved those tickets to make sure they weren't winners, and they were not. Fortunately for me, in those examples, my subtle thoughts were positive and resulted in positive experiences for me. But what about all the stinking thinking that we do? Typically, the mind is a negative space. Left uncontrolled, the thoughts that come in are primarily negative. More than not, we have to put effort into thinking about positive things. It's not to say that you or I are negative people, it's just the way of the world. DNA is a negative compound. I won't go into details about this statement here in this episode, but check out the link to my blog post where I explain why DNA is a negative compound. So just imagine if we have on average anywhere from 12,000 to 60,000 random thoughts a day, and the bulk of them are negative, when we understand the upside down mechanism of the world, it's easy to see why the world seems so negative. We have to be in control of our thoughts to ensure that we are bringing the most high vibrational experiences to us. Since I've been unlocking so many mysteries of the universe, I've been having a lot of fun playing in the world of woo-woo. It's designed to be difficult to manipulate, but like any concept and principles we use to govern our lives, when we study them long enough, we start to see and understand patterns that we can use to get the best possible outcomes for ourselves. I study the world of woo-woo with intensity and scrutiny, and what that has done for me is given me sharp, keen sensibilities in the way I feel and think. Because I understand that the world is flipped upside down, and it's usually the upside down part that creates the experience, I apply it accordingly. Now, don't get me wrong. We've been in this multicellular experience for hundreds of millions of years, and we are accustomed to the way of life we've always known. To totally flip that upside down is very difficult, almost impossible. It takes a lot of desire, focus, and belief in oneself that we are capable of seeing ourselves in a new light. Not just a new light, but one that shows us as having a superhuman, superconscious, and beyond three-dimensional existence. To fully get it and embrace it, we have to reside in the world of woo-woo on a consistent and regular basis, almost more so than we do in our physical reality. I try to wrap my mind around the notion that not all people want to concern themselves with this magical, mysterious, and abstract world, but because I know what I know, I have embarked on a mission to get them to see. I've already discussed in a prior episode that many people are happy and content with how they've shown up in the physical world and are not looking to change anything. To that I say, remove all those external things and luxuries that contribute to and enhance your physical life. What then? Are you just as happy? If so, welcome to the world of woo-woo. You are tapped in more than you know or want to believe. You may even call it something else that starts with a G and ends with a D. Woo-woo, like the rest of the forces, are dual in nature. It is both intentional and subtle, and they both come with the component of letting go of the outcome or not thinking about it at all. The subtle way of existence is the true realm of woo-woo, but we have not been taught the art of subtleness. We have been taught mindful intention. We have been taught to overanalyze, overthink, overdo, overreact, and we've been told our whole lives to use our brain. I'm here to tell you, give your brain a rest. Tap into your other sensibilities. Play with them. See how they work. Learn how to utilize and manipulate them in a way that serves you best. I love playing with energy, which is the most subtle force of nature and all the universal forces known to mankind. We know that some of the others are gravity, magnetic, electric, just to name a few. My favorite woo-woo forces to play with are energetic and magnetic, and together they form the electromagnetic force, which in its field resides the ability of manifestation and creating reality. I'm vigilant in recreating my reality because I simply no longer identify with my current existence. I do not always use the two together. I spend a lot of time focusing on energy. I use energy to play with the characters in my story. Let me clarify what I mean by characters in my story. I think life is a big old play, movie, or show, however you want to look at it. We are puppeteers, executive producers, show directors, and writers. We are telling and living a story from our very own perspectives. The people that are in our lives, our families, friends, business associates, and randoms all comprise the supporting cast. We write the storyline and we create the synergy between ourselves and our characters. Right now, I'm working on my supporting cast. I've done so much inner work and changed so many things about my mindset and perspective on life. I love seeing my characters transforming as well. Unlike before, when I used to try to talk with people and work with people to try to work things out and solve any issues we have, I don't try to fix anything in the physical world anymore. I enter the world of woo-woo where magical things happen and I'm able to move mountains. I've been intentionally using the term woo-woo a lot lately. I just like to see the reactions from others. I want people to directly ask me, what is woo-woo, so that I can quickly and briefly enlighten them. It's like wanderlust to me, a rite of passage, so to speak. I'm such a storyteller, and I can always tell when I've captivated someone with my words. Their eyes start to twinkle. It's like you see in the movies when the main character is on a mission to save the world. They have these superpowers, and when they encounter other characters and are able to transfer what they have to them, the way the movie director let the audience know a change occurred happens mostly through the eyes. The eyes are the truth tellers. It's the lenses to the soul. I love talking about woo woo. My characters get twinkles in their eyes probably because I have twinkles in mine. Thinking of my life as a movie has helped me tremendously in accepting a huge chunk of responsibility in the progression of my characters and I. I don't say full responsibility because I also believe there's an AI proponent to this way of thinking that as we create, the story becomes intuitive to our nature and environment. Now, having said all that, the fun part comes in when we realize our ability to change narratives and character arcs at will to align with our changing perceptions and desires. However, for some reason, most of us do not see life in this way. I initially didn't, so I get it. And I was miserable thinking I had no control over my life and how people treated me and just had to settle for whatever life tossed my way. When you know better, then you do better. I now know that I create my reality, and to say the least, it has been fun times since this discovery. Not only can we change the character arcs in our stories, but we can change the settings and props as well. Most movie scripts contain scene settings, and two of the main ones are indoor and outdoor. I consider this as our inner and outer being. Most of my set changes have taken place indoors, meaning I've been doing a lot of work on my inner self to change my reality. So very little change has occurred in my external environment. As of the past year or so, I've been really focusing on what the set looked like. And in doing so, I've been having so much fun. It's like, where do you want to live? What do you want to do for a living? How big do you want your house to be? What type of car do you want to drive? Where do I want to travel? Those kind of things. I was never intentional with this kind of stuff before, and so life just boomeranged me back whatever my subtle desires were. And those primarily focused on having my basic needs met. My subtle desires were limited because that's how we've been taught to think within limitations and boundaries. Most of you, I'm sure, have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Abraham Maslow was an American psychologist who wrote a paper called A Theory of Human Behavior. And to summarize it in my own words, he created this hierarchy of things that will motivate us as human beings. He breaks them down into three categories. So the first one is basic needs, which include food, water, shelter, safety, and security. The second one is psychological needs. That includes intimate relationships, family and friends, and feelings of accomplishment. The last stage is self-fulfillment, which is achieving our full potential through our innate creativity, desire, and special abilities to live our very best lives. Although he didn't state it, nor did anyone else who supported his theory, like educators, lawmakers, scientists, etc., the last stage, the self-fulfillment stage, is referring to woo-woo. Let me repeat that. The last stage that he calls self-fulfillment, which is achieving our full potential through our innate creativity, desire, and special abilities to live our best lives, is woo-woo. Now, when I was growing up and I was in college, I came across Maslow's hierarchy of needs quite a few times, but it never registered for me until doing this podcast, this episode, that the stage 3 self-fulfillment is actually woo-woo. Imagine me sitting there reading that and I'm like, wow, all these years ago, he was telling us in this diagram that we have to tap into woo-woo. Just mind blown. So the premise of the pyramid hierarchy is that the bottom of the pyramid is the widest and the most important to conquer, to ascend upwards. And that greater portion of the observed population, we reside at the stage, at the basic needs stage. As we ascend up to the top tier, which is self-fulfillment, the herd kind of thins out, and only a small portion of the population reaches this point. That's why the triangle ends in a point. The pyramid ends in a point. Most of our modern day population is stuck at the bottom of the pyramid scheme in the basic needs realm. Yes, I did just call it a scheme. Why? Because it's what we've been taught. This paper that Maslow wrote became like some type of Bible to human behavior, and it was taught everywhere in education, healthcare, social work, and business, and it taught us to focus on basic needs first. I'll never forget that day and moment. It was June 2011. I made a subtle whisper to the universe. I want to be in a place where my basic needs are met without me having to work. Guess what? The universe manifested that subtle desire for me a month later, and I've been stuck in that place until now. Since dispelling some myths and uncovering some truths, I realized basic ain't serving me anymore, and it never did. It was all a lie. Having my basic needs met did not send me up the pyramid like I've been taught to believe. I had to employ the upside down mechanism of the universe to figure the shit out. I started to focus on stage 3 first, self-fulfillment. And since changing my mindset, I see my life transforming right before my eyes. Opportunity after opportunity arises for me to get closer to the things I'm desiring now. I'm so tapped in that I'm now fully aware of the moments when I intentionally or subtly create something new that shows up in my life. It never gets old. I'm always in awe at the power that exists within us. I've been saying recently to people who I can tell don't fully grasp it at the moment what I'm saying when I say I move mountains. I'm saying it now again to you, my woo-woos. I move mountains. I've been playing with the concept of time, which I know is a modern construct and does not really exist in the world of woo-woo. However, I'm figuring out how to manifest things faster. I have not fully gotten to a clear understanding on how to recreate manifesting quickly every time, but when I do, you will be the first to know, my woo-woos. I've pretty much for sure tied it to the step of letting go. What I've been doing in the meantime until I get it all figured out is asking myself, what is plan B? What will I do if XYZ does not materialize? Whatever that plan entails, I proceed with it, no matter how contradictory or how counterintuitive it seems to the things I want to manifest. I guess what I'm saying is to keep it moving, no matter what. When we manifest things, we should never put our lives on hold waiting for that something to appear, because it will either feel like forever before it does, or just never at all. We should always stay connected to our passionate selves, doing those things that keep us happy, regardless of what else is happening or isn't happening in our lives. Also, be mindful of parallel creations, as they may cancel one another out. This should never really happen if you are an intentional creator, but it can happen, especially with our subtle thoughts and desires. Stay connected to the fun aspect of creating your reality. I love doing vision boards, visual meditations, and active foreshadowing of the life I want to create. Visual representation is not focusing on the outcome, it's living an outcome, because it evokes feelings of gratitude as if we have already attained those things. When I look at my vision boards, old and new, I am so giddy, with big smiles on my face about what has come to pass already and how amazing the rest feels and is going to feel when it too becomes a reality. So, my woo-woos, it's that time. We have come to the close of another wonderful, exciting episode. I really enjoyed making this episode. It reminded me to tap into my inner child to stay connected to fun. Life doesn't have to be as serious as we seem to want to always make it. Creating from a place of organic nature is beautiful. We get to see that innermost part of ourselves that we can't otherwise see in the physical world. Our creations show us that part of our inner being that is usually kept hidden, and it's a beautiful sight to behold when it comes from an authentic place. As always, I thank you for being here and spending your precious time with me today. I have no exercise for this episode, but you can always revisit those from previous episodes. Until next time, go be magical, my woo-woos. Woo-woo!